Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff Mom Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio.
Yes, and welcome to another edition of Happy Hour. And today we're going to jump into our episode by celebrating one of the most well-known female bartenders, Ada Coleman, who, by the way, was one of only 2 women to have held the position as head bartender at the Savoy in London. And as in fact, in a couple of articles, they say she's the only female bartender, but again, there's been some like maybe not. But
Right.
It was said, as in legends, I guess, that she would not share her recipes with anyone else, especially the other female bartenders. So there may have been some competitiveness in this. But yes, and to celebrate her, we are drinking the Hanky Panky,
which is a drink I've never heard of. And as always with these episodes, drink responsibly if you choose to do so. But that's a pretty solid name.
It is. It's a very good name. And just to give you the recipe of what it is 1/2 ounce of gin, 1/2 ounce of sweet vermouth, 2 dashes of Fernet Branca. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
I think so.
Okay. And then you garnish with an orange twist, which actually I did. I've got my pretty glass. Annie, you see it?
Yeah.
And I garnished it with my orange twist. Thank you very much. I was trying to be very fancy. Of course, it says add all the ingredients into a mixing glass with ice and stir. I did that with a shaker. And so I didn't stir. Well, you strain into a chilled cocktail glass. My glass was not chilled. Oops,
mine either.
Again. And then garnish with an orange twist. Sit back. And this is from the actual article writing about doing this specific drink. It says, sit back and enjoy in the knowledge that you're a teeny tiny bit smashing the patriarchy. Ada would be proud. So Anney, I dropped off some of the assets for this. How's it going for you?
It's going well. As I said before we started recording, I love that you gave me a decent amount of Fernet Branca when there's only a dash that's called for.
Two dashes.
2 dashes, excuse me, yes. That makes all the difference.
All the difference.
And I love that you dropped off an orange because you rightly assumed I did not have one, which I did not. But I feel like the orange twist really makes it. That's usually, to be honest, I'm the type of person that really cuts corners in cooking and in making drinks. So it's like, the slightly nicer thing that you can skip, I usually skip it.
Right.
So I feel like this is a very elevated drink for me. I did top mine off with sparkling water. I tried it before without it, but it's so hot in my closet because it's kind of it's a sweet drink that sort of coats your mouth that I thought the sparkling water and the heat would improve it in this situation. It is definitely not something I would typically drink, but I do like it.
Yeah, so I cheated and made it last night because I was like, I have plenty of this. Let me try this and see what I think. And yeah, this is definitely not up my alley. This is very licoricey, which is vermouth as well as Fernet Branca apparently has that kind of sweetness to it. And I'm not the biggest fan of licorice. So anything like this, Campari, all of that is kind of like, I'm good. And usually will avoid it. So I did cheat a little bit as well, knowing that we were drinking this today, and added a squeeze of the orange from which I got the zest from to add to it because I was like, I need a little more acidity, a little fruitiness. And of course, I love gin, but it's just straight liquor. So I'm like, even though this is for happy hour and it is afternoon, it's still early in the afternoon and we have more to record today. So
don't give too much away, Samantha.
Let's just be real honest in how we do these episodes. But yeah, so I had to kind of space it out. I'm spacing it out as I'm drinking it. I also, instead of having a chilled glass, I have an ice cube. And I'm like, I think I need to water it down just a little bit.
Yeah, it's strong for sure. And I'm always kind of intrigued by the ups and downs of people's preferences in alcohol and drinks. So like the 80s is one of my favorite examples where everything was bright and super sugary and coming from the shelf. And then the 90s was like, what were we thinking in the 80s and trying to correct that. So I would love to learn more about when she was creating this in London. What was the preference in the cocktail scene like?
Right. I'm absolutely certain that they were Yeah, darker drinks. And for bars, most of the times it was like whiskey for men, obviously. Maybe some wine, maybe some ale. And women were probably drinking the small cups of things, the sweeter mulled wines type of thing, I'm thinking. But yeah, so let's talk about Ada just a little bit.
Yes. So Ada was born in 1875 and began her career in bartending and mixology after her father's death when her father's boss, Rupert Dooley Cart, offered her a job, first in a flower shop, then in the bar at the Claridge Hotel. As she began her career, there were women in the industry that were few and far between, according to American statistics at the time, but still, they were still there. However, they were not considered bartenders, but actually barmaids, and many were hoping to push women out as it was seen as, quote, bad for them and for society physically and morally. That's going back to that whole where women used to not be allowed in like coffee houses because there was swearing going on in there.
Right.
Or yeah, just you go to a place like medieval times and it's the bar wench. Yeah, I have a lot of experience at medieval times. So
yeah, I saw your co-host already went to Ren Fair. She was ready.
Yeah. Yeah, people really went all in for Ren Fair. It just opened in Atlanta, you guys, near Atlanta. People were into it.
Oh, they were so ready. Masks on, ready to go. Yeah, and actually, Ada was great at her job. And she learned it really quickly, starting with a Manhattan and moving on to being the head bartender at the Savoy, a bar categorized as an American-style bar. There, she was lovingly known as Coley and was a favorite at the bar. And there, she created her signature drink, the Hanky Panky. And the story goes that a comedic actor came in who, by the way, knew his cocktails. So she would learn at home and bring it back to him to try. So apparently he was the fancy one that she would always test her drinks out on. And he came one day tired and needed something with what he said, a punch. And after she served him her fancy cocktail, he exclaimed, Anney, I want to let you do this because I feel like you have a better accent than I do on this.
Okay, I'm ready.
Ready?
By Jove, this is the real Hanky Panky.
Lovely. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And according to the English, this was not a sexual term, which in the US it is. You know, they're getting their hanky panky, whatever. But actually meaning witchcraft. So he was like, you're brewing some here potions, I guess.
Yes.
That's my best interpretation of an English guy, I guess.
We're doing so well.
We're doing well
the
with
accents and the interpretations. Ada continued on until 1926 when she retired or maybe was forced out.
Yeah, so
Unclear.
apparently, according to some of the conversations, a male bartender came in and was not happy that he was working with women, including the other woman that we talked about. She was pushed out as well. And according to some of the accounts, Ada was pushed into going back to the flower shop in which she finally just retired. And when he came in, he created actually what is now one of the more famous Savoy cocktail books. And the only recipe that Ada created that made it into that book was the Hanky Panky, which is why we know of it still today.
Right. Just a note here, probably everyone knows this, but a lot of cocktail histories I've learned from the other show I do, Savor, there's a lot of myth and like legend around them and three people that fight over who invented it. And then really it was probably around for a long time. But, just put that out there. Ada passed away in 1996 at the age of 91 and continues to be spoken of and remembered through her beverages and, just by making history.
Right, Anney. Did you ever want to be a mixologist or a bartender at any point?
I did. And my good friend Marissa, who's been on the show as a traveling nurse, she took bartending classes. And I was so jealous of her because she had like this little case she would open up and it had all these tools and drinks. And she would make us all, to me, very fancy concoctions. And when we would go out and she'd be like, you should order this drink because I think you'll like this. And I was like so impressed.
So you haven't taken any classes either, I guess.
I haven't taken any classes other than like a one shot on how to make. When I was in Spain, I went to like a sangria making class. I did get my license to serve alcohol. And I had hoped that from there, that's where I wanted to move up to, was making drinks. But as I've said before on the show, I didn't technically lose that job, but I guess we kind of ghosted each other. And I was only there for 2 weeks.
You never got paid for that one, did you?
Nope. But also, yeah, I was only there for 2 weeks.
I was going to say that does go into the next question. Have you ever been a server?
I have, yeah, for 2 weeks. And then um, I will say it was a lot of work. And at the place I was doing like the hostess job, the serving job, and I would like go back and get. So it was a lot. And also the calculation for how you could tell people how long tables were really made me panic. So I'm pretty sure I told people ridiculous times, way longer than it actually was.
Right.
And then I worked in a like cafeteria situation for a couple months, but that's it, I think.
Okay. Yeah, so I've obviously told the story. I think many of y'all know that I was a beer tender, as they like to call it. We were trying to figure out the best name because obviously we didn't make cocktails, but being from a specific brewery, I could tell you the ins and outs of all of our beers, types of hops, types of like grains, all of these things, the brewing process, all of those levels. And I'm really pretty good at telling you what you'll like. All you have to do is give me a description of what your favorite beers are or what your favorite drinks are.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go through and I'd be like, okay, this is for you. I have several of my friends who have helped onto better beer choosing. I'm very proud of that. And they now understand, oh, these are the quality beers. Okay, got it. So that's one of my favorite things to do is help recommend the best things.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, since you and I have been on our little adventures, our Star Wars adventures, I have definitely become more experimental. But it's always like you always get the basic cocktail and then I flourish it with whatever else I want to add, whether it's like, I'm going to add this herb into this, or I'm going to add this berry, we're going to muddle it like this and do this. Mm-hmm. So that's been really fun to do. So I'm like, okay. And while you're the queen of creating the names, I am the one who makes the cocktail. So I feel like we're a good team on that.
But you're great you're also good at like coming up with the story.
Yeah,
like
I give you a story. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, here's what we need.
Good collaboration. Yes.
It's great.
And, our friend Holly over at Criminalia, who does all of the cocktails and creates cocktails for them, as well as stuff you missed in history class, she did take a class in mixology and she did a whole thing. And when we went to her home for her birthday, she was killing it with all of these cocktails. They were so good. I was like, yeah.
It was awesome.
So I'm like, yeah, that's what I would like to eventually. I don't know if I would just, I don't want to serve anymore. I'm done. It's tiring. There's so much. And I give all of my props and we should be tipping more than 20%. They should be getting living wages on top of their tips. I still will tip wherever I go, even if it is Europe. I remember getting weird looks. I was like, no. Believe me, you still deserve this money. They're like, weird American, okay. But like, I think it's really, it's a hard job. And then the creativity that goes behind in creating something new.
Yeah.
Because there's already so much out there. Whatever. Okay, and speaking of creating, what would you want to be your signature cocktail? How would you like to leave out if you had one cocktail for everybody to remember you by?
Oh, funnily, I have a group of friends. They made all these pun name drinks for me based on like, when you die, we're going to drink all these drinks. Sounds really morbid, but it was very sweet. I was very touched by it. I think I would want something very like, I think gin would be involved because that's my favorite. And I think it would be the color changing gin. It would be very Star Wars themed. And maybe some basil involved.
Perfect.
And then it would have to have some kind of citrus, but I would want it to be more interesting, like maybe the grapefruit thing or not lime, something a bit more interesting because that's what changes the color of the color changing gin.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Your gin basil grapefruit drink, which I love. The last time you made it, because we had so much grapefruit juice, it was killer.
That was so good.
It was so good. And then we had the fresh basil. It was beautiful. Yeah, I think I'm definitely along the same lines. I'm definitely a gin drinker, if anything. I remember when I first ordered gin, it was like 24. I didn't start drinking until later. And I got gin and tonics and people are like, how old are you? Are you an old man? And I was like, Yes, I am. Don't start with me. But I do love that. I think I would love our little Tatooine sunset drink. Yes. I think that might be my new, like if I could have a signature, that would be my signature, which we've talked about before. Because I love everything. There's herb, there's acid, there's berries, and it's pinkish purple. And then you have
Mhm.
little floating blackberries in there. I just
Two.
love that. And champagne. Who doesn't love champagne?
Yeah, that's a solid choice. I mean, champagne, if I could get that involved in my gin drink, that'd be tops. And I
Yeah.
made that for a friend of mine for May the 4th. And she asked me, like, I want to know Samantha's process and the story behind it.
Tell her I'll make it for her. I got you.
Yes,
One day we'll just have a
yes.
giant party. I probably could drink 2 drinks and just sit down. So
Yeah.
it would have to be very
Well,
slow rolling.
It cracks me up because you've said to me multiple times that champagne or sparkling wine makes you tired. And that's kind of what you start with.
Mhm.
And then you're tired.
I do. And I'm like, Well, last time we started with the Bloody Rancor. Because
Yeah.
I was like, that's the drink that I want after I've had a little too much drink the night before. If I'm drinking at all, that's going to be what
Yeah.
I drink. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's fun. Always drink responsibly. And let us
Yes.
know what your signature cocktails would be. We would love to hear it. Share recipes with us. If you have something that you have created and want us to feature, please let us know. We'll give you a huge shout out as well as a
Yes.
tag because we love creating and people creating things for us.
Yes. Yes. And you can send any of those suggestions, ideas, creations to our email, which is stuffmediamomstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can find us on Instagram at Stuff I Never Told You or on Twitter at MomStuffPodcast. Thanks as always to our super producer, Christina.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff I Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.